Perhaps it is due to the aphrodisiacal powers of heat that many in warm climates tend to be irrationally puritanical about sex and engage in neurotic behavior like genital mutilation of boys and girls. Where their bodies want sex, they indoctrinate or condition themselves to avoid it, lest they are harmed by overindulgence. Such puritanical behavior in northern people, for these reasons, will lessen their numbers. An alternative use for the equatorial regions could be industrial production and industrial waste processing. Machines need to be cooled and do not corrode faster in cold climates, but machines can take adverse climates. In contrast, human beings ought not to be content with corrosive climates. The hot places of the world can also be used for energy capture, although with the invention of fusion, this should be unnecessary. I would exhort you to migrate to the north. Migrate to where it snows and temperatures in the warmest days do not exceed 60 degrees Fahrenheit. May you be empowered to migrate out of hot climes, and may all resistance melt before you. This may exclude everything between the 45th parallel. A caveat or warning: as more people move to the northern regions, it is possible that overpopulation could result in deforestation, even as the tundras become warm enough to host people. People living in the colder regions, like the northerners, will be resistant to overcrowding and sharing of resources with the southerners, and hence this may result in increased prejudice and chances of conflict. To prevent the desertification of northern regions and the conflict between the races, a way of discouraging the escape of the equatorial folk to the north could be to propagandize and instill and indoctrinate in the tropical dwellers the belief that warm weather is better than cold. This may be told to them that skin color and features and hair textures don't matter. This would create an illusion of equality or even superiority, and it will soothe any desire to move out of the hot climates. Such tactics, however, could perpetuate a race of human beings who would continue to be ripe for enslavement and abuse and manipulation, as is the case today in 2009 AD. It would lay the groundwork for a never-ending conflict. These are some of the solutions. All should have fewer children, no more than 2, and if you can have fewer, the better. If you must have children, please see if you can bring yourselves to accept having children outside the mother's womb. This saves the mother and the child's body from the trauma of birth. It is safer and more hygienic. Another measure is to let the animals be separate in a petting zoo or a reserve. There should be distance between man and animal. Do not come in contact with animals but use machines instead, particularly in the tropical zones. A measure that will cool the earth is this: that we push the earth farther away from the sun in an orbit that cools the earth's equator. Another measure would be to move people to Mars after massive terraformation, large-scale terraformation, and to use the earth as a breadbasket. More accessible measures could be to depopulate the equator, build skyscrapers and means of living in small spaces in the north without impacting the environment. We could attempt to convert deserts into northern forests populated by cedar and fir, but devoid of virulent and violent beasts. It would help cool down the planet some. Now I will go over what are not so good solutions practiced nowadays. A bad solution is curtailing human freedom, forcing women indoors into darkness, etc., forcing them to wear clothing that keeps them light. These are temporary workarounds like wearing radioactive gear. People ought not to live in such situations which may be necessary in warm climates, but may be overdoing it in cold ones. Other poor solutions are mullets and raising collars and hiding under parasols. These are only workarounds and are not viable long-term solutions. Some other workarounds and attempts to avoid sunshine are wearing sunglasses at night, wearing visors and sombreros. If someone offers a temporary solution like use some bleaching cream and you can be white, ask them to help you move north, for it is better to be naturally white than to be artificially so. Once you are in the north, you may use these aids to accelerate your preservation and return to what is natural. If someone says use some lipstick or rouge or makeup, shun it for natural appearance. Once you are in the north, you may use these aids to accelerate your preservation and return to what is natural. As depicted here, please prefer what is natural. What is naturally colored is far better and superior and happier. What is unnaturally colored only evokes sympathy and pity. Again, as you will see here, it is far better to opt for what comes through cooperation of the weather. A conducive climate yields prettier people than those who adorn themselves with gold. What is not a solution is oppression or hoarding or greed or indifference or hatred. May none think of hindering your exodus, and may those who even think poorly of you perish immediately. This applies to all people and all regions where people are attempting to flee to gain shelter from the sunlight and towards a better life. Please learn to share and do not deprive any nation of snow. And when you move to these colder northern places, try to adopt their customs. Try to learn their language and try to live in the ways of innocence. Please learn to share and do not deprive any nation of snow. If you do not share, the one who is deprived may be given things far better than you can imagine. But I would prefer it if you shared. If someone says, if being white was such a good thing, why do they tan? Tanning is their way of showing off their whiteness. It is similar to someone smoking $100 bill. They have lots of money, so they can afford to burn some. If they have lots of white, they can afford to burn some. It is a way for them to find mates and love as well. The tanners will return to being white as soon as they return to the snow-covered homes. But if you are dark, you should not imitate the tanners. Some may say that racial conflict creates energy and is the engine for progress. One must not use disparity as a catalyst for progress, but beauty as a catalyst for progress.